Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Job, the 5th chapter. And pretty much you still have, I think it was Eliphaz, one of Job's friends, that's speaking to Job at this point. Call now, if there be any that will answer thee, and to which of the saints, here when you go into the word saints, it's talking about like the holy ones. So as it's saying, which of the holy ones will thou turn, right? So who is going to justify you, right? Who's going to hear your case? For wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. Now, you'll notice as we go through the book of Job that there are sayings, right, either by Job or his friends, that are basically true sayings, right? They're saying these are like, true to life. And so oftentimes there are certain parts and precepts in here that we will use, whether applying to now, right, or to Esau being the wicked, or just, certain situations. But that's because, these are sayings that hold true even to the test of time, right? So you're able to, you can use them to whether it's out of the context of what exactly who was saying it and for what purpose they were saying it, it's still a valid point. So, verse 3, I have seen the foolish taking root, but suddenly I cursed his habitation. And this is going into, in the NLT, you'll see it says here, and the NIV as well, right? I myself have seen a fool taking root, but suddenly his house was cursed. Basically saying that a fool, just like in verse 2, was saying the wrath killeth, for wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. Basically, a man that is wrathful, right, eventually it leads up to his death, right? And those that are envious likewise. So in other words, the wicked don't prosper, right? So here when it says the foolish, I've seen the foolish taking root, but suddenly I curse his habitation, meaning they may start, right, and take root, but they won't grow, right, or they won't make it in the long run. And all the points he's going to make here, it's in a roundabout way trying to get at the point that there must have been something to cause this to happen to you. You can't just be completely innocent and then God does this, right? Only these kinds of people get this kind of judgment, or this warrants this kind of judgment. It doesn't just, boom, you just innocent and then, oh, everything, life is sweet out here, right? And then boom, all of a sudden, you just suffering this. Verse 4, his children are far from safety, and they are crushed in the gate. Neither is there any to deliver them. Whose harvest the hungry eateth up, right? This is all going into the misfortune that befalls, as it says here, the foolish, right? Or the envious or the wicked. Whose harvest the hungry eateth up, and taketh it even out of the thorns. And the robber swalloweth up their substance, right? And a robber, we know who a robber is, right? A thief, one that takes from you what you have. So they lose, right, their possessions. Although affliction cometh not forth of the dust, neither doth trouble spring out of the ground. Yet man is born unto trouble as the sparks fly upward. So affliction or troubles they don't just randomly spring out off the ground, right? They don't just grow out of the earth. Yet man is born unto trouble, meaning that man is inherently gonna have trouble, just as surely as if you light a fire, you'll see sparks that fly out of it. Same way, when man is born, they're going to have trouble because inherently they're not perfect, right? And they're going to do something at some point that is going to trigger, right, or bring forth that trouble upon them. I would seek unto God, and unto God would I commit my cause, which is like, if I were you, right, if I were you, I would turn to the Lord, right, and commit my cause to him, as he's telling Job, which doeth great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number, right? So you can't You can't search out the great works of the Lord, right? You can't count his numerous deeds. Who giveth rain upon the earth and sendeth waters upon the fields, to set up on high those that be low, so to exalt the the low, and those which mourn, or that those which mourn may be exalted to safety. So basically, he's saying the Lord deals justly, right? He raises up those that are low, and those that are in a mournful state, those that are, afflicted, he exalts them to safety. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise, right? So he puts an end or a stop to the plans or the scheming of the crafty, so they're not able to successfully fulfill their goals or their plans. And that's why I mentioned that these are all true statements, right? And we can see this, or we will see, as we're seeing this being exemplified, even though we've seen it time and time again. This is why we're able to use precepts like this to concern like Esau and his agenda and his new world order, because once again, this is a tried and true statement, right? And we will see it come, manifest again in this time, as the Lord will disappoint the devices of this wicked and crafty devil. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, right? Those that are wise in their own eyes, in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. Carried headlong means it quickly comes to naught. Okay. Salakia, 1 second. Verse 14, they meet with darkness in the daytime and grope in the noonday as in the night, which represents judgment, right? It meant basically them them not being able to discern, right? Them being without, because one that meets with darkness in the daytime is likened unto one that's blind, right? And groping at noonday, groping is like trying to feel out places to find your way around. But noonday is when the sun is out, where you would have lights to see. So this signifies how the crafty, right, their counsel or their plans quickly come to naught, and they're left basically without, right? They're left confused. They're left judged, without a sense of direction. Verse 15, but he saveth the poor from the sword, from their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty, right? So from the words, the actions, and the dangers of the mighty that would overpower the poor, he delivers the poor from them. So the poor hath hope, and iniquity stoppeth her mouth, right? So he puts an end, the God that is, puts an end to iniquity. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth, right? When you stop your mouth, right, going back to verse 16, it's like somebody speaking and then you just put your hand to cover their mouth, right? You stop them from continuing in whatever it is they were about to say, right? So iniquity stopping her mouth is just a figure of speech for putting an end to it. Verse 17, behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore, despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. See, so it's once again implying here that, Job, you must have done something that the Lord is correcting you for, or he's chastising you for. So don't despise that, right? So, on the one hand, it's like we're trying to comfort you, but on the other hand, it's like, don't go into a proud spirit thinking that you are more justified than the Lord, that the Lord is just gonna, punish you and you haven't done anything wrong, right? For he maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth and his hands make whole. See, so the same God that brings affliction and sorrows and pain upon you is the same one that makes you whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Right? So, and 6 troubles, 7, these are all, it's the number is arbitrary, but it's just to signify when you see one number and then another after, means, in all your troubles, right, the Lord will deliver you. In famine, and at least from the point of what Eliphaz is saying here to Job, in famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. And see, all the things here that Eliphaz is saying, we're going to see that apply to us now, right? Because this is basically him speaking about the reputation of the Lord. These are the things the Lord does. And if these are the things he does, then we know that in our time, as he said, he's going to do it for us. These would apply to us as well. Or else he wouldn't be a God that delivers, right, from trouble. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. So nobody will have, there will be no occasion for people to speak against you, right? You're not going to be afraid of any destruction. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the of the beasts of the earth. For thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. Meaning that the Most High is going to have you protected. He's going to have things go right for you, right? Famine and destruction will have no power over you. Wild animals won't hurt you. The earth is going to work to your advantage, right? That's the stones of the field. The beasts of the field being at peace with thee, once again, not hurting you. And thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace, right? So you're going to know that your dwelling, which is your tabernacle, is going to be peaceful. And thou shalt visit thy habitation and shall not sin. And when you read that in another translation, in the NKJV, for example, it says, you shall visit your dwelling and find nothing amiss, right? So nothing lost, nothing taken. Everything is going to, be right there for you. You're not going to suffer loss, basically. Thou shalt know also that thy seed shall be great, and thine offspring as the grass of the earth, right? So the Lord will bless you. He'll increase your seed, right? He'll make you basically a great, and a multitude. Because contrary to how people live today, kids were a blessing, right? Children were a blessing, and they were also an investment. And the more you had that were successful, the better. Verse 26, thou shalt come to thy grave in a full age. So you'll live a full life. Like as a shock of corn cometh in his season, right? And a shock of corn is like a sheaf of corn, right? During the harvest. Lo, we have searched it, so it is. Hear it, and know thou it for thy good. Searched it meaning like we have confirmed these sayings through life, right? This isn't something we just made up. This is something that is tried and true. So, give heed unto it and know and understand for your own good. And that brings us to the end of the book of Job, the 5th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.